Alright, we're going to be going ahead and setting up our front-end projects by installing Visual Studio Code, logging in and hooking up our GitHub stuff, and setting up the Node Package Manager. So I'm going to go ahead and go through all of that on today's Coding with Kyle session. So I already uninstalled everything from my computer to kind of re-go through it. We want to go to the Visual Studio Code website, and we can go ahead and just do the normal Windows build for a Windows computer. This is for Windows, by the way. Once we got that installed, or the .exe file, we can go ahead and run this to install Visual Studio Code. This will ensure that we have the latest version, or the one I'm using is 1.86.2. And I'm going to go ahead and, or I'll wait till we get started installing, and then I will pause. All the normal things are okay. I guess I'll take a desktop. No, I don't want a desktop item. All right, we definitely wanted to add to the path. Next, and install. And so once you're here, you can just wait for it to install. Oh, cool. And now it's ready, it's done, so we're going to go ahead and finish. This is going to launch VS Code, and that is working. Okay, this is what our VS Code looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this for right now. We're going to move on to the next thing, which is that we need to install Git. So for Windows, we're going to install Git. We're going to select, we'll be on this page with their normal Git page. Windows, and 64-bit is kind of the normal one. So we'll do that. Now Git is what is going to allow us to access GitHub and use the command. So we actually need to download this separately and then hook it up with Visual Studio Code. It was one of the things that I had missed from last class. So we need to install this. Git and GitHub is what allows us to manage versions of our code. And by different versions, we mean different branches that are created whenever you create edits. And so if you're on your local computer, you have your branch and your edits that you're doing, and if you are okay, cool. We'll just keep all of these selected. If you are programming with other people, you need to be able to manage the versions that you push and pull. Not only that, but you're going to want to manage your own versions whenever when you're working on your own project. You're going to want to have like a development branch where you can be writing code and testing it out, but then you're also going to want some type of production branch that is what you have that's live. So whenever you push changes to that, that'll update your live website. We want to keep things that you're working on separately. And by creating different branches for features and doing feature-driven development, we will just help keep everything cleaner and easier to follow. And so yeah, to manage the cleanness of our code, to manage pushing changes and merge conflicts with other people and collaborating on a project, all of that is GitHub, and we use Git to be able to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Launch Git Bash really quick. That is what this program is. It's basically the terminal. Since Windows computers don't really have the same terminal that Mac OS has. So you can use your normal terminal commands in order to navigate the file system and things like that. So we are able to use this whenever we're doing our projects. All of our Git commands will work here. And so to start us off, we need to, I guess before this we'll need to, we'll go ahead and check that Git is here. So we'll do Git dash dash version. That will say that it should give you a version here. That means that it is installed correctly. And then we need to hook up our GitHub account to that. So to do that, we need to make sure that we have a GitHub account. So we'll go to GitHub. If you don't have an account, you will create one. Let's see here. My username is, I think it's that. All right, so you're going to want to get your username and then the email that you signed up with. And then we need to configure GitHub. So to do that, we're going to type in this command. So we're going to say git because we're accessing git. We need to configure the settings. So we type in git space config, another space. We want to do this globally on their computer. As long as you're using this laptop for yourself and nobody else, then you can do it globally. It won't affect anything. And we want to do the username. And that's whatever username is displayed here. So that should be that. Then we're going to type in and do this again, git space config space dash dash global. And we're going to set up our user.email. And you're going to want to put in, you need to make sure to have quotes around this, put in your email address that you have used to sign up to GitHub. All right, to test that you did this correctly, you can type in git config dash dash global dash dash list, and now you should see your user email and your username in this space. If not, then you did something wrong and you need to go back and look at it. So this is going to link our GitHub account to this terminal, so that way we use commands to push directly to this online window. So we're going to go ahead and make a new repository. And so mine is going to be for our gaming store. So I'm going to say gaming store. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this one private. We need to make sure to add a README. This will be for when we make projects public, but it allows other developers to have instructions on how to install or set up different things. We are going to add a git ignore, but I think we're going to do it manually. And I will talk about that whenever we get there. React, so this would be, unless they have a good node one. They might already have node. All right, let's just try selecting node. We'll do that. The license is something that you can change later. If you were to publish code, it tells others what they can and can't do with your code. So whenever you make stuff public, you'll want to do that. Or you can keep your project private and just run a website or something. All right, so now we have two folder files in here. We have our README, which is just kind of similar to just like a Google Doc. It just it's a text file, a type of text file. Technically it's a markdown file. That's why it's .md. So you can put text in it, and you can put in commands to mark up the text to make it bold, italics, bulleted, stuff like that. We'll add things to that later. And then the git ignore has a bunch of things, of files that we want to ignore. So the things that we want to ignore are stuff that's automatically generated whenever we install certain things. So when we install Node is going to create Node modules, which let's see if it listed here. Yep, it listed a dependency called Node module. So whenever we create Node, it'll automatically make this, and it will put in different files and packages of code in order for us to like create the React app and things like that. And the reason we want to ignore it is because whenever we're using the git commands, we're adding and committing things to our code. And we only want GitHub to track the files that we're consistently changing on our local computer. Whenever we have, whenever we use something like the node modules, when we install another node package, that can be like hundreds or thousands of files. And we don't need to track those changes. It doesn't need to commit them every time we make a change to one file. So we're ignoring those because they're not needed. That's not part of our code. Whenever we want to use the node packages, like if you were to do this on another computer, you would clone your repository, and then you would have to run the npm install command. And what's not ignored is the installing part. So it knows all the things it needs to install, and it will install them locally. But those files that get installed, we don't need to add those to the repository. If that made sense, awesome. If not, we'll kind of see it in practice a bit. So now that we have this repository, we're ready to clone it, which we can select the code here. And this repository is in GitHub. It's online. Now we want it on our local computer. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to take the HTTPS, and first I'm going to show you how we can use it in Git Bash. So first you want to use ls. This stands for list. It will list all the folders that you have, and you can cd into certain folders. So, or you can go back. So cd ... goes back to the root directory where you're in. This will have things like your documents. You can go to the desktop. There's the normal documents thing, desktop. So let's go to, I'm going to go ahead and be good and put this in the documents folder. So I'm going to say cd documents. So now I'm in my documents folder. You can hit ls to see that what kind of files are there, just normal other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and make this project in here. So to do that, I want to make a new directory, so I will say mkdir, which stands for make directory, and I'm going to call this just the gaming store coding project. If you already have a folder you want it in, then instead of making a new one, you can just enter into it. So let's see, where did that folder go? What do you call it? Gaming, so G, there it is. All right, so gaming store coding project, the folder is now added in there, so I should be able to say CD, which stands for current directory. So we're changing the current directory to gaming store coding project. Obviously you want to type in whatever your project is. Now we're in that folder. If we hit ls to list the things in the folder, it is empty, so nothing shows up. So this is where we're going to go ahead and clone our project to. We're going to do git clone, and then we're going to paste, not that. We're going to paste this HTTPS thing. This is how it will connect there. So see how it has the username. If I set up everything correctly, then the GitHub on my computer should know that this is my username, and when I clone into it, it will be able to access it. So now it'll say cloning into gaming stored into that folder, and we get a GitHub pop-up because their new stuff comes in. We haven't actually signed in, so we're going to sign in with the browser. It's going to take us to this authentication link that they've added, and we will authorize the Git ecosystem. And then, I hope I set this up correctly, my two-factor authentication for GitHub. I do. Okay, cool. All right, so once you're signed in, which maybe is just entering your email and password for you, this should finish and now say done. So basically, just because we set up in global the email and the username, that allows us to connect to our basically GitHub directory. but we need to make sure that we can, we need to make sure, oh, it doesn't like store a password. We don't want to store the password. We want to log into that so that way no one else can like access that. So it doesn't matter that you can see my username because you don't know my password. All right, so now that project is here. So in this folder, I have this gaming store folder, which is this repository. If I go into that, I hit ls, I have my readme file. If you notice, I don't have the get ignore file. Well, why not? Well, that's because it's getting ignored. The GitHub is going to ignore that stuff. And it's kind of there. It's just a hidden folder. But so that is working correctly. Perfect. So we've installed that. Now the other way you could do it is by doing it inside of VS Code. So let's go ahead and launch Visual Studio Code. Let's see. To enable Git in Visual Studio Code, we're going to open Visual Studio Code. We're going to go to Settings in Visual Studio Code, which is down here. And we're going to find the search bar for the settings. Or here we go, settings, click settings. We're searching the settings here, and we're going to go ahead and search Git enabled. And we're going to make sure that the stuff is checked. So now take the checkbox to enable Git. So Git enabled, we want to make sure that this is checked. As long as it is, then it should be enabled and we're good to go. And we can access, so this here is source control. This is where we can access all of our GitHub stuff. So from here, we can also clone the repository. So if I type in that and then paste in, should be able to get this HTTPS. If you paste it, then you would click that. But we don't want to clone this repository because we've already done it inside Git Bash. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the folder that we put it in, which was in Documents. I created a folder for the Gaming Store Coding project, and then this is our repo folder. So that's the folder that I'm going to open. Now I can see my get ignored and my readme. Yep, we can trust the authors. So we're set up. We can also edit the readme file and make changes here. So the next thing we need to do, since this is going to be a React project, is we need to start the React project. All right, so we're going to go ahead and work on creating our React app. So to do that, we need to install Node.js because Node is basically a huge front-end package thing that has a lot of different frameworks. So there's a lot of different options on the front end. React is not the end-all be-all. It's not, I think it's a good thing to use. I have reasons why I like using it, but there are other options out there that there's, people also say are industry standards that are pretty good. Like I know that Vue is another one. There's so many options. It's really just like which coding language are you comfortable with and do you like using. The cool thing about React is that it's a lot easier to make reactive elements to where you can build your website up by having component pieces. So imagine playing with Legos. If you're creating something with Legos, you need to have a bunch of different pieces. And with React, what you're doing is you're creating the individual pieces that allow you to build the bigger Lego project, which is your website. And then the back end, which we can use a Python one for Luke for this, but we'll set up later, will direct our front end and all the stuff that we need to do. So we're going to go ahead and install Node.js, which is going to allow us to install React. So we're going to go ahead and run it. next, accept the terms, next, that looks fine, add it to the path. And we compile from C. We're going to go ahead and do this because we are using Visual Studio and we are going to do some Python stuff. So we want to automatically install the necessary tools. Hit next and install. Hit yes to that. And we're done. Nope, we're not done. Okay, there's more. While that's installing, we're going to go ahead and type in React to get to the React site. That's what it looks like, and that's what it's like in dark mode. Alrighty. Reference. This is all of their big reference stuff. I guess we want to do learn. We're going to be doing like a quick start. This will give you some high-level information about the components. We're specifically concerned with installation and starting a new project. And node is done, so we'll go ahead and click finish on that. And make sure to press any key to continue, and any key to continue. Okay, looks sure. Cool. And we'll leave that. Alrighty, so when starting a new project, you can use React without a framework. However, we found that most apps and sites eventually build solutions to common problems such as code splitting, routing, data fetching, and generating HTML. These problems are common to all UI libraries, not just React. By starting with a framework, you can get started with React quickly and avoid essentially building your own framework later. So yeah, we want to do that. A lot of companies want to do that these days, unless you really care about something specifically. You only need to create custom stuff where you need to. We're specifically interested in the routing and data fetching because we'll want to have a router that connects with like a Python backend that we eventually add. We're going to go ahead and use this Next.js one because it's pretty popular, and I did a little bit of a Google search, and the best way to combine React with Python is by using Flask or Django with Next, looks like. And then somebody else mentioned an option for something else. Oh, Streamlit. It's a good alternative to Flask or Django. So those are kind of our three options. We're probably just going to do Flask or Django. I've actually used Django before, so maybe that one. Okay, so this is the only command that we're going to need to do, and we're going to make sure that we're in our directory. So I could normally do this in our git bash here. We're inside of our folder. I could type in that command here, or let's go ahead and try to do it from Visual Studio Code. Maybe. All right, let's open up the terminal. We want to add a new terminal. Let's make sure we have the Git version. Okay, Git's there. And let's make sure we have Node version. So this terminal is just another thing, just like Git bash, that has it. And let's see. Okay, so they don't seem to have Node. That's probably because we installed it while they were open. So let's go ahead and reopen them. So git bash and Visual Studio Code. In git bash, I now need to navigate back to my folder. So I'm going to do cd documents, gaming store coding project, and go into gaming store. I should have the Node version now. It does. There we go. Version 21.6.2. Should still have Git version, obviously. All right, this has reopened. It looks like it saved this terminal. We might want to do that. I don't know, though. should be able to do node version now, and same version as our get bash one. So good, that's accessing the same thing. So now we can just go ahead and do those commands. And if you notice, this file, this location, it automatically opened up the terminal in this folder that I have in the Explorer, the Gaming Store folder. And in Get Bash, I had to navigate, to it, but it's the same spot of documents, Gaming Store, Coding Project, Gaming Store, documents, Gaming Store, Coding Project, Gaming Store. So these are accessing the same folder right now. I just have two different terminals open. That's all that is. There's two different ways to do it. So we're just going to go ahead and copy this command, npx create next app at latest. And now's the fun part. We got to see if it works. I can't seem to paste in here. So just kidding. We're going to type this out manually. npx create next dash app at latest. And now it's going to go ahead and ask us if we want to install that. We're going to go ahead and say yes. It's going to ask us what is our project name. We can go ahead. This is where all of our like front end React code is going to be. So we're going to call it, should be all lowercase, gaming dash front end. I think front end's all one word. I don't know. Let's just go with that. Would you like to use TypeScript? Would we like to use TypeScript? So I'm going to say yes. We're going to use TypeScript. Do I click this? It's actually interesting. Oh, wait. Oh, it's already selected? I don't know. Yeah, we'll use ESLint. Tailwind CSS. Ooh, I don't know that one. Oh, I can use the arrow keys to switch these. I don't know Tailwind CSS, but why not use it? Would you like to use source directory? I don't know, sure. App router, yep, we'll use that one. Would you like to customize the default import alias? No. All right. So now it's installing all the dependencies. This could take a while. This could potentially take up to like 10 minutes. It's going to be doing a bunch of things, but it should be building your project. You'll notice that it's puts in the gaming front end folder here. Yeah. Should be adding the node modules to the get-ignore. We'll check that out in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it here because this could take 10 to 15 minutes, especially on different computer speeds to set up all this stuff. So we're just going to watch it go. Okay. And we're back. It should say at the end 131 packages. Oh, wait, who cares about that? Added 363 packages and audited 364 packages, found 0 vulnerabilities, success, blah, blah, blah. Looks like there's a new minor version of NPM available, but we like our current version because it's the most stable one. So now in here we have our node modules folder, and if you notice, before I click this, this is like grayed out because our get-ignore is specifying down here any directories that says node underscore modules anywhere in our project is going to be ignored. So this is ignored. And if you were to push this to your GitHub repository and then clone it onto a different computer, you would have to rerun. You would have to run npm install, and that says go to the node, go to the package.json. And if you run npm install, we have a bunch of scripts. maybe it's the package lock JSON. One of our JSON folders has our scripts for that. So we've configured the ability to run different commands in the command line that we'll talk about later. So whenever we use like start, we'll use like npm start, and then that's going to start our application on the front end. Which, you know what? Let's do that now. So now we can say npm start, unless it's npx start. Yeah, okay. npx start maybe. That should run this thing. Nope. Okay. Oh, okay. That's because I'm in the gaming store folder. I now need to be in the gaming front end. So I tried accessing these commands. This package.json is in the gaming front end folder. So I need to cd gaming front end, that folder I just made. Now I have all these files. Now I should be able to run npx start, npm start. There we go. So it's npm start. And then that runs this script, which is going to launch our application, which it is done here. And is it, let's see, localhost 3000. No, I don't want to be here. All right, we'll get to that part later. But yeah, so everything in the package.json is different commands that we can run, and the package lock will install the different things in the node modules that we've added. So yeah, that's all the stuff that we have added. So yeah, we're ignoring all of these things because we don't need them. We're going to be going into the source folder, and this is where our application is going to be. We have this page. Everything is .tsx instead of JSX because it's a TypeScript file. This is where our exporting main function is. Ooh, maybe we should not have done the routes. Oh well, we'll figure it out. All right, so this is our application. What we're going to do in the terminal is we're going to go ahead and practice some of our source control stuff, which if you can see here, we have changes to commit. We added all of these configuration files, and the pages, TSX, the layout, which is where our CSS, or global CSS layout is probably something with that as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to commit these messages and then push them to GitHub. So I'm going to try doing it from the source. I'm going to do it from the source control first. We'll make a change, and then I'll show you how to do it from the terminal where you could also use git bash. So here, you always want to type in a commit message. That is what we did. So we set up, we set up our application and configured React. Then we're going to go ahead and click commit. Yes, we want to add them first. Now it has committed them, and now it says outgoing to main. It hasn't pushed yet, so whenever this says push one commits to origin main, so if we click that, this action will pull and push commits from origin main. We say OK, and now whenever we push it, it will be added to our gaming store project here. It will be added to our gaming store project here. There we go, gaming front end. So once it finishes, now we have all of those folders that we've added, so they synced up. The other way to do that is go back to our file explorer. Let's go ahead and just change something. all this stuff has to do with routing things that I don't exactly know yet. So we'll mess with that later. I did just kind of add in a router for fun to learn it. But let's say that we want to change something here. All right, so we made a change. As soon as we made a change, we can see it in our source control. Now if we say, okay, there's the dot here, meaning we haven't saved it yet, so Control S to save. Now that we've saved, it updates our source control and says, hey, there's a file that you've edited. Do you want to commit these changes? So now we're going to do it manually from the terminal. So in Visual Studio Code in the terminal or git bash, what we can do is type in git status. This will always tell us the status of our current branch. Our current branch is main, and it says, hey, you modified this file, page.tsx. You should probably add it if you want to commit changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in git add, and I'm going to go ahead and put the dot, and this says add in all the red modified files, so git add dot. Now if we type in git status, we will see, hey, we've added this, we've staged it to be committed, but we haven't committed it yet. So we can type in git commit -m for message, and we're going to add in message, made a change in the page.tsx document. Now it says, cool, made a change, one file added, one insertion. It tells you the amount of code changes you have added. If we look at git status, it says, hey, we don't have any changed files, but our current branch, our local branch, is ahead by one commit. There's one commit here that's not up here. This is origin is basically this what we're accessing here. So we say, okay, yeah, we want to go ahead and push those changes up, and now it adds those changes and it's completed. And if we look at git status, we're on the main branch. Your branch is up to date with origin main. There's nothing to commit. The working tree is clean. That's where we're good to go. Whenever we're done programming, we always want to check on our git status and make sure that we've done all these changes. It's really funny, when I was working on a project with someone, they didn't push their changes on a Friday night, and then their laptop, when they booted up Monday, just kind of like black screened and stopped working. And so all of the code that they had made, they wound up having to rewrite because it didn't push it. It was stored on their local computer. But mostly you just want to do it to keep everything up to date on there. But this is like when it's on your local computer, there's one copy of it here, whereas when it's online, you can access it in multiple places. If I refresh, it now says 3 commits and that there's one added 1 minute ago. So you should never work in main. Main is a terrible branch to be working in. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this button here. This is our branches. It says find or create a branch. We're going to create our own development branch. And it says create development from main. We're going to go ahead and do that. All right, now we have 2 branches, which we can see here, development and main. Going back to the code, we always want to be developing on the development branch. Main should always be a working thing. So main, if we want to show off our project to someone, we can switch to there and run it, or that's what like our server will be running. And while we're making changes and experimenting stuff, we'll kind of do that in development. So now that I made that branch, you notice I made it here online. So if I'm not on the branch here. If I do git status, it doesn't have that. So if I make changes here that aren't locally, the way that I get it is by saying git pull. So you push changes you make up to origin, and you pull changes somebody else made. So if somebody else were to push their own code, you can git pull that code from origin to always have the latest thing. So now it says, hey, there's a new branch created called development, and you now have access to that. To switch to the branch, I say git checkout development, and I'm now on the development branch. Branch development, switch to a new branch development is set up to track origin development. Now when I do git status, it says I'm on branch development. So now if I add changes, they will be on this branch, the development branch, not the main branch. So it's a way to track changes, but say, hey, we don't want those changes on the main thing yet. We want to wait to do those changes. Yep. I'm also going to make you guys create a branch for every user story that you do. So if you want to start programming this, what you'll do, let me show you how to create a branch here. I think you can just do like get checkout and then make a new one. So let's say the first feature that I'm working on is the listing, right? Is the like D&D listings, like the sign up listing. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm just going to call it listings. Get checkout listings. Okay, it didn't matter. I think I need to do get checkout -b for branch listings. All right, so get checkout -b listings. I just created a new branch called listings. And if you notice, if I refresh here, I only have 2 branches. If I do get status, my working directory is clean, so that there's nothing to commit, but I am on a different branch. I did create that. So if I do get push to push those changes up, yes, so I do want to, okay, so I do want to do this whole command because it says the current branch listings has no upstream branch. So there's not one up here. There's only 2 options and you're on one that's not there. You're on your own locally created branch. So if you want to set it up as an upstream branch, you need to set it up upstream, and then that way you can stay tracking on that branch. So get push -- set -- upstream origin listings. And now it pushes that up. It's done. If I switch to here and I refresh, I now have 3 branches. And there's my listings one, which is what I'll be working on programming. So that's enough for today. Make sure to get that set up. I want you guys to be working on more of your user stories because we're going to be creating branches from those. Don't create more than 1 branch. If you're going to try working on one of them, create 1 branch for your user, your feature. We're going to merge. We'll talk about merging that into development. And then we're always going to branch off of development for our new one. We want to make sure that we don't introduce code conflicts. I will also, next time in class or maybe Monday if I create a video, kind of talk about this page TSX file and what's going on here. I think it's actually just their main website, but it's slightly different. I installed a couple more. Usually I do TypeScript, and the router stuff is new. The CSS stuff is new. ESSLint is a way to make your code neat if you following like code standards with correct spacing and things like that. So I need to play around with a couple of these things of what we just installed. Oh, I don't know what the Tailwind stuff is either. Just kind of, I don't know, just kind of did it. We'll just play around, but it seems, I know that Next.js is more modern. So we're gonna figure out and use some of the more modern stuff that's coming out. All right, thanks for this Coding with Kyle session. I will see you guys in class next week. Later.